The following video is a discussion with Andy Connor, co-founder of Foraged Marketplace. Forage makes wild and specialty foods more accessible by enabling you to purchase hard-to-find food directly from small-scale farmers and certified foragers. Enjoy.
Hey, what's up?
Not much, just enjoying this sunny day. I got a little late start to the morning. I went out and helped my neighbor, but I'm back now and ready to talk mushrooms and food, and get to know you a little better and have a fun little convo, man. It's a beautiful
Cool.
day.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm glad I finally got some time to do this. We've been trying to schedule it for a while. I thought that once I shut down the mushroom operation, I would have had some free time, but I've been super busy. So first, before Thanksgiving, we went to Puerto Rico and I hung out with my family for a little while. That was nice and relaxing. Then the Thanksgiving, so it was nice to finally have a break from everything. And then we got our new Quonset building delivered like a week and a half ago now, and we just got our permits for the new farm yesterday. So it's just been like nonstop
Oh,
trying to get all our ducks in a row, and I'm sure,
understood.
yeah, I'm sure you know how that goes.
Yeah. So, how much bigger is this new facility versus your old one? And
It's about 4 times the size,
wow.
and it's all one structure. So
Okay.
we're definitely going to scale up, and then also just I think it's better to have more volume for the mushroom sake. It's
hmm
easier to manage like the environmentals and
Right.
whatnot.
Makes complete sense. And so, I guess now my question for you, now that you have expansion, now that you have a facility to actually really kind of ramp things up, so to speak, what is your kind of longer term goals with this new facility? You're going to introduce new species? Are you going to obviously ramp up production for a larger quantity? Kind of explain to me what your plans are really.
Yeah, definitely. We're probably going to stick with the same mushrooms that I'm familiar with, at least at first. Although I'm doing a big breeding project, so hopefully we can find some good commercial strains. But then basically, I'm just going to um, increase my production. Our plans was to do 2 farmers markets this year, but we'll see how that goes. We were trying to get the slab poured, but now it's too cold, so that's all on hold until spring. But yeah, our plans are just expansion and just getting to the point where we can maximize efficiency.
Right.
So I think that's the phase in the business that I'm at, is trying to really maximize like my hours.
hmm
Last summer was super busy, and it'll probably be busy until we move everything all the way over. We're still here in Denver, and trying to balance the lab stuff. Basically, it's just efficiency at this point.
Right.
Yep.
Makes complete sense. And I guess one last kind of follow-up question regarding that is, because I know your current facility is in Denver and your new one is going to be in what location? Or you recently moved, right? Did you
Yeah,
recently
yeah.
move?
So we're in Sedalia now.
Okay.
Yep, we have some friends that are visiting in Denver. So right now we're renting our house to my brother,
Oh,
and
cool.
then we have everything set up. Still, it's shut down, but it's ready to go if we have to, or we're just really trying to focus on building out that new facility in
Right.
Sedalia. But it's about 25 minutes south, so pretty close by, which
Right.
is we definitely jumped on that opportunity earlier in the year. We have been um, under contract for a different area in Golden, which is about 20 minutes north of us. And
Right.
then that whole deal fell through, and then this one popped up, and it's just been a roller coaster ride from the beginning. So I don't know if you want to explain kind of what you guys are up to, but I know we talked over the summer, and I
Mhm.
thought I would have more mushrooms at this point, but I'm super excited for Foraged.market, and I don't know if you just want to explain what you guys are
Of
up to
course.
and what you've been doing lately.
Yeah, so we started God, it's December already. Time flies, doesn't it? We started in April or March. Me and Jack kind of got together. Jack he currently lives in New York City, and he was kind of, not really feeling his job. He wasn't really passionate about it. He felt like there was a little bit something more. And, I called him one day out of the blue, and, just kind of started discussing, my problems as a forager, because I really started getting into foraging. When was this? 2 years ago. Unfortunately, my mom passed away from cancer, and during her battle from cancer, I was just doing research, just looking into, what can we do to make her life a little easier? Is there anything that we can do to boost her immunity? And the first thing that came up was a Paul Stamets video of turkey tail mushrooms, and immediately I was like, instantly just like, what is this all about? And sure enough, I dug kind of, that's kind of when I jumped into the hole, so to speak. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, because then it just opened my eyes to this entire realm that I literally was literally underneath my feet as I was walking through the woods. And I mean, right behind me, I live on a ranch in the mountains of North Carolina, so it's readily accessible. In fact, there's turkey tail probably 20 feet from me right now. And I'm actually going to go harvest them tonight, because I got an order last night for 10 ounces. So I'm going to go send it off to a customer. Which is the coolest part about this, right? I was able to build this marketplace with the help of Jack, but also I'm still selling my stuff. As I started this thing to sell my wild mushrooms, I'm still doing it, and it's great. And it's, we're just starting. There's a lot of exciting things in the works. But back to the start of everything. So, me and Jack were, really just, it was kind of just struck us of just like, we've got to get this going, because so many people have this same problem of, I couldn't find an outlet to sell my wild mushrooms. Jack was looking to buy wild mushrooms and more exotic foods. And that's kind of how it started. And we got together, and, Jack is the CEO of Foraged, and I think he's one of the best CEOs I could ever dream of to have helping me run this thing. I'm not a CEO kind of guy. It's just it's kind of in your blood, so to speak. And he's been, very helpful. We've raised, we're evaluated at about $6 million right now on paper, which doesn't mean we really literally raised $6 million, but we've raised a good amount of money, and kind of really started to approach this thing from a more holistic perspective of, can we offer something with mushrooms, and even more so, even more wild foods, wild onions, wild greens, wild pretty much anything. And sure enough, we've kind of built this small little community. It's growing and growing and growing, and the sky's the limit. And we've been meeting incredible people. I mean, some of the most amazing and nice, kind people I've ever met has been through Foraged, including yourself, Gary, it was awesome to meet you. And I had seen your videos on TikTok and also just around social media, and it was just fascinating watching your grow operations previously, before you expanded, and just seeing, really just getting fully immersed in the world of mushrooms. And ever since that day 2 years ago where I saw that Paul Stamets video, I've been literally neck deep in research and wondering, how can we make this thing scalable? How can we really just project this thing into the masses? And I think mushrooms are obviously having their moment right now, as we can all agree. I mean, everyone is just absolutely fascinated. And I'm for one, absolutely fascinated as well. And so, yeah, we've got about 400 sellers right now, and we've got about 50 to 100 that are always active and continuously producing product and selling and engaging. But as the season progresses, we get different types of mushrooms. For instance, from the Pacific Northwest, we have Chanterelles right now from all sorts of foragers out there and distributors. So it's really a marketplace for all sizes and shapes, and obviously species, right? So we've got everything from wild lion's mane to cultivated lion's mane to wild turkey tail to not cultivated turkey tail yet, but everything in between, all sorts of species, and truffles. We just started getting some wild truffles in, and I think hopefully by next year we'll have probably double to triple the type of inventory, and really just like I said, sky's the limit. We don't really know where this is going to go. We have hopes and dreams and aspirations, but the future is obviously, it's pretty impossible to predict, as life is sure to remind you sometimes. So we're all, we're keeping headstrong and really, stoked for the future. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit of how we got started. Obviously, we're 6 months down the road from when we started, and we're going as strong as ever. And we're kind of encroaching on the the wild mushrooms obviously kind of quieted down here in the East Coast. So we are seeing more Pacific Northwest inventory. We are seeing more cultivated mushrooms arising. We're seeing a lot more different types of species of nuts and berries and fruits and all that stuff that we're trying to kind of organize the site in a way so that people can find it easily. People can find it rather quickly, but not kind of overwhelming in the sense that like there's so many options, I don't know where to go. A lot of what we're doing now is really just education. We've come out with several articles in the past 2 months, just kind of describing foraging, describing the types of mushrooms, describing basic just knowledge about this stuff, because not a whole lot of people are very familiar with it in the Western kind of region of the world. Obviously in Asia and Eastern parts of the world, it's a lot more. Mushrooms have been around for thousands of years for them. So yeah, it's really just about educating and allowing people like yourself to sell on our marketplace and reach new customers and really just kind of reach a whole new audience. So yeah, that's kind of how we got started. That's kind of what our current, I guess, trajectory is, so to speak, because we really don't. We have lots of our Miro boards, our online blackboards are just filled with ideas. So we really want to just kind of reach out in any direction. But yeah, and so that's kind of how we got started. Any questions particular to that? I would love to answer any, because I know that you probably have a lot as in accordance to what we're doing. But yeah.
I'm super excited. We did do like some test shipping. So if anyone wants to check that out, I'll put like a link in the description. But I was super excited to ship some mushrooms over the summer. I also sent them to some friends of ours in North Carolina, and my family in New York, and with pretty mixed results. So I feel like there's some species that are definitely going to be shippable. Like I'm really interested in lion's mane, especially the popularity these days. So I guess that's kind of the main hurdle of like mushroom distribution is the shipping issue. But I feel like the more and more people that get involved, the more heads that are put towards, all right, how do we create the best possible shipping container and at the most affordable rate?
Right.
That is going to be where the tides eventually turn.
Right.
So over the winter, I feel like it's a plus because of the temperatures, and maybe after the holidays, once things slow down a little bit with the economy, because right now I'm getting so many cultures taking twice as long as they should. But once all that settles down, I feel like the logistics for shipping are going to be the focal point, at least from my business point of view.
Right.
But also just adding more products. Like I have the liquid cultures on there. I've sold a few of those, and I've just been a little lazy to not update my inventory.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's just an adjustment, getting onto this new marketplace. I think there's lots of potential, and yeah, I'm excited to see what comes around in spring. From like just a hobbyist point of view, I'm excited to just be able to try some of these mushrooms that I haven't been able to, and then all the different regions of the country are starting to, what it sounds like, get involved. So yeah, it sounds like a pretty exciting opportunity. How do you guys go about, like, I guess, just screening for potential foragers? Like, how do you make sure from a safety standpoint that you guys are doing your due diligence?
Of course. And a lot of great points there that I'd love to hit on, especially shipping. We've done our own shipping test here recently, but
Sweet. All right.
not to get too off topic. So we'll go in chronological order in reverse. Screening for forages has been, at first we had this idea of Etsy for wild food, or Etsy for food really is Etsy. Etsy, the Etsy style of like, I can sign up, I can sell right away. And that worked. It worked great to getting seller acquisition rather. And we got a lot of sellers. We got I think 300 of them through an open source platform like that. And then we started seeing the quality of product kind of diminish. We started seeing a lot of questionable listings, a lot of just people that we weren't sure if, is this the right move for food? Should it be open source? So there's a lot of internal discussion about that. And eventually we just closed the doors of the application process to be a little more vetted. So now the process is you apply still, obviously, but you don't set your store up right away. We screen you first. We make sure that you're able to respond to us, right? I mean, even something as simple as responding to an email and meeting with us is what we would like to see first prior to letting you on the marketplace, just like this, a face-to-face meeting. And you wouldn't believe how many people won't do that because either they don't feel like they're credible enough, or B, they just don't have the time. And really what we're looking for are sellers that are very, very devout, very vocal, very engaged. Really, if you're not engaged, then I mean, it's very hard to be a successful business if you aren't engaged. And it means just like overall engaged. Like if I'm able to send you an email and you respond back to me, that's exactly what we're looking for. So not only did the quality of product shoot through the roof when we started doing this new vetting process, what really valued in my eyes was I was able to connect to these foragers a hell of a lot more. It wasn't just some random name on our site. It was Todd over in Maine. Like I could actually call him on the phone, and I literally do. Like I text you all the time.
Yeah.
I text all of our sellers all the time. I'm like, hey, how's it going? What do you got this week? So keeping that engagement up was really a big part of the vetting process. And overall, it really helped us out. Are we going to do this in the future in the long run? Probably not. We are working on kind of a new marketplace in the coming years of just like a really solid custom built marketplace that is chock full of features just for food entrepreneurs like ourselves. And when it gets to that point, I don't think we're going to need to be hand-holding as much for the sellers, but it definitely is one of our top priorities because we are selling things that you will ingest. We are selling things that can be dangerous, right? If you don't have the right wild mushroom and you try and sell it on the marketplace, it's a pretty sticky situation. So in the states that do have certifications, we do either require or really just acknowledge that you should probably get a certification if you plan on selling in the long term. Again, a lot of these states don't have any laws regarding the selling of wild mushrooms particularly. Now, for cultivated mushrooms, there's really not a whole lot of any laws. Rather, it's just cottage food if you're making things with it. For instance, we just had a seller sign up last week. He's making lion's mane gummies and candies. And it's really interesting what we're seeing. We're seeing a whole lot of these really interesting infused treats, foods, snacks, jerkies, you name it. And it's all made with specialty mushrooms. And to me, that is phenomenal. I've never seen anything like that anywhere. And I mean, I haven't seen mushroom jerky in the store in the last 5 years, it's unheard of. So to have different products, to have, very interesting products like that is really, really kind of the icing on the cake for me. And for the sellers who are foragers, we are seeing a lot of interesting products too, like mushroom salts, wild mushroom. They make jerky as well, but a lot of them dry it out because it's easier to ship that way. So I think the number one thing that kind of we took away from this kind of first 6 months was vet your sellers as much as you can. Don't vet them too much because you don't want to scare them away, obviously. But the second thing is make sure you can establish that community. Make sure you can really establish that connection with the forager, with the seller. I don't want to be personally, as the co-founder of Foraged, I don't want to be some like just name on a website. Like I want to be involved with the process. I want to get to know you, Gary, the seller, the if he is a forager, the grower. And that's really where the value lies for us. And hopefully that all makes sense because it was kind of like we switched gears, obviously, because it was getting a little overwhelming dealing with the customer service of these sellers that just kind of dropped off. Like they would get an order and like we wouldn't even hear from them. So it was a learning process for us because we were like, all right, well, this is getting a little annoying. And ever since then, I mean, our order numbers are this small because everyone's pumping out orders, they're putting in tracking information there. The marketplace is running itself. And that's really what you want as a marketplace, automation, right? I should be able to go in and see 35 emails from pissed off customers, excuse my French, but that's kind of what happened. Was it was getting to a point where we were like, okay, well, we need to have a little more control on the actual sellers themselves. And, it really paid off. It really did.
Awesome. Yeah, I think from that first order that I placed until now, it's definitely improved. I really like the shipping features. I feel like it's very close to Etsy.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't had any issues as far as like customers to seller interaction being a seller. There was a couple hiccups, but you guys responded really quickly. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that all makes sense. I feel honored to be in like a prestigious group of people that are still selling.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and
It's good.
I'm excited to see like more and more people join, and I feel like reaching out to local mycology centers like the Colorado Mycological Society. I mean, some of the people there are going to be interested
Of
after
course.
hearing this, and I feel like how can people reach out to you? Is it better just go straight through the marketplace and then you know, you'll reach out to them, or is there a way that they could get more information, or what do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What,
Absolutely. So if they're interested in selling, I would say sign up through our sell page, especially if we have fellow farmers, fellow even foragers, really, who have the proper credentials, who have the proper knowledge. If you're a distributor, it doesn't really matter as long as you are able to have a permit in their states, whether it's in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, any of those states. So yeah, if there's any general inquiries, feel free to just reach out on our support. We do have a feedback form, Foraged.market /support. And on there you can leave a message. And if you want to reach out to us, I usually get all those emails as well as Jack and our other team members. It's just 3 of us right now. And we try to respond back within 24 to 48 hours. We're very responsive. We try to, the number one thing that me and Jack always hammer home is customer service, right? You want to stay on top of your brand image. You want to make sure that you are able to communicate the value in your product, which is for us is a marketplace for food entrepreneurs, for people who want to grow their mushroom businesses, who want to really just, start fresh and start a new business, or even just take their current business to the next level. So yeah, that's, if they want to reach out to us directly, that's probably the best way. If they want to sign up and sell, we vet everyone. Like I said, we just kind of go through, read your information. We ask, I think, 15 to 20 questions about what your plans are, what really, what credentials do you have? What experience do you have? And again, it's not like too intense. It's not like a sales interview or anything like that. It's really just, we want to get to know you a little better rather than just a random username on the site. So that's the best way to get a hold of us. And if you guys have if they have any general questions, feel free to email me directly too. I'm very responsive. My email is just Andy@Foraged.market. So it's ANDY@Foraged.market. I'm sure I'll be able to send over you some email information, the links for this video. So they can kind of click right into that and really get reaching out to us. We would love to hear from everyone. The number one thing besides customer service that we really value is feedback. That's really what makes a product great, right? If you're out there just ignoring what people are saying, you're really not going to go very far. But if you can actually listen to someone and say, hey, I think you should do this. Hey, I think you should have this information on the website. Hey, I think you should talk about this. I think you should sell this. I think you're doing it incorrectly here. Let us know. That's really what we want. We want feedback. And that's really what's going to make this community great. And it's going to take it to the next level.
cool. So I guess I mean, that's super exciting. One question I wanted to ask you, because you kind of have like a bird's eye view on the whole market and how it's developing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are some of the up and coming trends as far as, products that are going through your marketplace, or individual strains of mushrooms? I know that a lot of these wild mushrooms are seasonal, but do you see a trend towards something more, or even like cordyceps mushrooms, or like what is your bird's eye perspective of this craft mushroom industry from your point of view?
Well, the research that I've done has definitely led to an import rather of medicinal mushrooms, right? We get most of our medicinal mushrooms, whether it's in mud water. I don't know if you know what mud water is. Obviously, as some people do, it's like the coffee drink.
Yep.
So there's a lot of medicinal companies out there, like Four Sigmatic, Rainbow. All of these guys, from the best of our research, they're importing it, right? They're not getting it locally. I think the main thing that I'm seeing is kind of a transition, right? Because as the supply chain is kind of like really taken a toll on all businesses, really, from the worldwide view, just the pandemic in general has kind of focused more of the attention of the markets to domestic, right, to the United States. What I'm seeing now is definitely like a not really a resurgence, but just an emergence of local growers like yourself, domestic, that are able to grow, specialty mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, and really what I would love to see and what I'm thinking I'm seeing, right? Because it's still early on. We're still kind of understanding the markets and all that, but kind of an inward view towards the United States, really propelling that mushroom market. I really think we could drive some serious value of cordyceps cultivation, which is actually, there's actually that kid, I think he's from Pennsylvania, wrote one of the very first books on cordyceps cultivation. He's doing wonders in the community of really spreading the word of proper cordyceps cultivation. In fact, last week, we had one of our very first, it was one of our very first serious cordyceps cultivator. He's actually signed up on the site. He's a young kid like myself. He literally like lives in an apartment, but you could see in the background of his Zoom video, there was just like massive growing containers of cordyceps.
Wow.
And he's actually writing a book right now, and I'd love to help him out on that. His name is Silent Mycology. And we see a lot of these people just like ourselves, just emerging out of the woodworks of taking control of their own growing operations and really kind of bringing value to the industry there. And so we're seeing a lot of the the article you mentioned on your social media about the Danish Morel project.
Yes.
That is, I think what we'll see is an emergence of study into medicinal compounds, right? Like the benefits of cordyceps, reishi, turkey tail, chaga. I just got done harvesting a little bit of chaga a couple of days ago. Season is just now starting. So we see a lot of information that still needs to be kind of thrown out there about medicinal mushrooms. And I think the more information that we show people, the more interest we're going to grab and the more domestic cultivation we're going to have of all of these species. Back to the Danish Morel project, that is fascinating to me. I mean, people have been trying to cultivate morels for hundreds of years. And if they've got it, if this is just a fluke, whatever, but if they've got it, which probably they do, that's going to turn a lot of things on its head. It's going to turn a different kind of chapter in the whole book of mycorrhizal species like morels, like chanterelles. Is there a way to cultivate chanterelles? I mean, that's really the crazy thing about this. If they can cultivate a morel that's a mycorrhizal species, is it possible to cultivate other species that we have kind of just left untouched? And that's really going to blow the doors off of the mushroom industry as a whole. I think we're going to see a lot of people who are running away from red meat and meat in general and kind of moving towards this new sexy, just wide variety of mushrooms that they never knew existed. I mean, you talk to someone right now on the street and say, hey, what mushrooms do you know? They're going to say, oh, I know the white ones in the store. And, I know the ones that make you feel funny. And I'm like, oh, if only you knew, there's 50 to 100 thousands of different kinds of specialty mushrooms that you can ingest that are absolutely delicious. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a lot of people like you and I and people like Silent Mycology who are coming out of the woodworks to really kind of bring a community together. And that's what I'm hoping to do with Foraged, and what me and Jack want to do is just really driving home on the supply locally. And yes, we are going to be a global marketplace eventually. It's going to be great. And we already do have sellers in Canada and Lithuania and Poland. But, right now, my focus is the United States mushroom industry is it's not untouched, but it's just underdeveloped. And that's really what I think is going to be kind of the calling for a lot of these people, is just bringing attention and education to these species that are not really well known, like morels. I mean, it's insane. People have the morel bug in March, April, and May, and it's just like you see our organic traffic. It's just like this for morels. I mean, people are obsessed with it. If they could cultivate it year round, I don't even know what would happen. Just all sorts of awesome stuff happening right now in the industry.
Yep, I'm definitely excited for that.
Yeah,
I feel like the picture of mushroom cultivation for me is constantly like zooming in and zooming out, like long term versus short term. And
right.
for that Danish Morel project to witness someone, spend 45 years on one aspect of the entire industry is pretty fascinating. And I feel like as it moves forward, the key to cracking those tricky mushrooms is just going to be long-term projects like that.
Absolutely.
I think the difference between Denmark and America is that they have the infrastructure, so they have the capability to
Mhm.
invest in those projects, where here in America we're barely scraping by, just developing these you know grassroots like craft mushroom farms, where I
Yep.
mean there's definitely the staple button mushrooms in Pennsylvania and some really large scale ones scattered throughout the country, but bridging the gap between,
Exactly.
the craft industry and protecting the wild mushrooms. I feel like the interest in it could be harmful at first, but educating people like about the importance of maintaining the forests and
Hmm.
just connecting people with nature in the long term, I think is going to really pay off. And I'm excited to see, the market develop. And as the technology of packaging and shipping improves, like it's just going to be interesting in the next 5 or 10 years to see where that goes. There could be like little drone deliveries of mushrooms on your front porch one day.
Exactly.
Something.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up shipping, because that's definitely one thing that I literally can't stop thinking about as a forager myself. When I go out, for instance, this last summer, I pulled, we got hundreds of pounds out of the Georgia mountains of Chanterelles. And, there's just so many places like that around here that are literally, the mushrooms are just rotting in the forest, and no one's using them. You've got a couple people starting to get interested on the East Coast. Obviously the West Coast is pretty well established. I think the Pacific Northwest, the industry over there has been around for 50 years, 60 years. It's been strong for the wild mushroom industry. But um, yeah, shipping fresh mushrooms, that's been on my mind. Actually, we just came out with an article recently that I'll definitely link you to, and we're gonna have to add your video in, so I'll have to get your direct embed code for that. We just released it a couple of days ago, and it's we're still kind of going back and forth on the content itself. But I ran a couple tests from Oregon to North Carolina on 2-day shipping, and it worked great. This time of year, obviously, it depends on the seasonality of when you're shipping. So when you're shipping in colder weather, it's a hell of a lot easier. When you poke holes in your box and the outside is a refrigerator, it's a lot easier to send mushrooms that way. So I think overall, the wintertime is going to be very easy to ship wild and cultivated mushrooms, generally speaking. The really cool thing that actually I've been really intrigued about is making our marketplace kind of a hub for all of that. So we got some really good discounts off of UPS. I mean, we're talking 60 to 70% off. And what we're trying to do is essentially increase that volume as a marketplace and lower those rates. So as you increase the volume of output of those fresh mushrooms, of even dried mushrooms, really, of any sort of packaging through one UPS account or one account as a whole, we use UPS just because they have great perishable they have good rates, but also they have like perishable insurance that you can add to it in case they arrive spoiled or whatever. But yeah, that there's this kind of intriguing thing here where we can make the marketplace kind of a central hub for shipping fresh mushrooms. If you consolidate into one area, it's the cheapest way to do it. If you just walked into UPS today, it would probably be $150 to ship 2 pounds of mushrooms to Oregon, whereas we can do it for 40, 50, and that's just starting out. Imagine in 3 or 4 years how cheap it would be. And like you said, just have the Amazon style of, it's not going to go away, right? Shipping is going to continue to just explode because no one really wants to go to the store. We're all really lazy, right? We all just want one click. It's right to our door. A drone comes in from the back of the porch here and just drops it on my desk, and I start eating fresh chanterelles or fresh matsutake or fresh lion's mane from your grow house. So that's really like the long-term technology effect of it, is like increased access, right? Increased access to anyone. And that's kind of what we would love Forage to be. Not only mushrooms, but all sorts of awesome specialty foods. But shipping fresh mushrooms obviously is like the biggest hurdle for a lot of our sellers. And those tests that we did over the summer, like you said, there's certain species that love it, that are able to not love it, but are able to endure the transit. And then there's certain species that don't. But like you said, as the packaging increases, as the shipping speed, if you can narrow that shipping speed to 1 day to 12 hours, really, and you can get great rates for it, and you can make it happen, and then you can have a model that's really going to be successful and really kind of be the best that it can be for food like this. That's really hard to find. But yeah, having that one-click access is just, if I could click a button and automatically check out and have it to my door the next day or two from the woods, literally, like as a forager myself, if I get an order of chanterelles, I'll go out and forage them the same day. That is literally almost a week fresher than a store. Because what happens when you go to a store? I mean, when I go to the store here in good old Western North Carolina mountains, and I go to the local, what they call Ingles, which is like the local grocery store here, I walk into the store, I pick up they have this kind of like variety pack of king trumpets, maitake, and shiitake, just like kind of cultivated. I literally picked up the other day, there's mold growing on it.
Yeah.
That's not efficient. That's never going to work right now, at least. And if we can cut all that out and we can get it direct from the forager or farmer right to your freaking door at a highly discounted rate, you're paying way less for the product because you don't have to go through a middleman like the grocery store, and you're able to get it right to your door as fresh as possible. Like literally off the block one day before, it's at your door the next day. I mean, you can't get any fresher than that. So that's, to me, the value of shipping fresh mushrooms, is the freshness of it. Is if you do it right. If you don't do it right, then it's just spoiled. But if you do it right, if you have an ice pack in the summertime and you have good ventilation and you get there the next day, it's fresh as can be. And to me, that's invaluable. But to me, that's really where the food has a better story, because it came from their grow house, who it came from, and the little tidbits of details and stuff that you add into the packaging. Maybe you have like a little slip that says, hey, this was foraged yesterday. Hey, this was, grown yesterday and shipped right to your door. This is my name. My name's Gary. I have a wonderful operation here in Denver, Colorado. You can scan this QR code and here's my store. There's a lot of things that you can do to increase that value of the food itself. I think that's really what we're hunting after, because food nowadays, I hate to say it, but it's getting a little boring in America. It's just like, to me, at least, I don't know, maybe it's not different to you, but to me, interesting food really makes the world go round. And I think I really take pride in what I eat. I very carefully, like, I eat the blueberries that we grow on our farm here. I eat mushrooms from my backyard. I have turkey tail tea. To me, that's really what makes my life better, is having that close attachment to my food and understanding where it came from, how fresh it is, and how immediate I was able to get it.
Yep, I absolutely believe in that. And, I feel like how you described it, there's at some point, there's going to be a tipping point between access and cost. And I guess my ask for everyone, their call to action should just be like, everyone should team up, be under one marketplace, and see how efficient this can become. I feel like it's definitely possible to bridge the gap between grocery store and consumer and provider, and just go straight to the consumer. And it's just a matter of changing people's perspective and then teaching them, all right, well, this is accessible, and it might be challenging at first, but it's definitely worth fighting for that efficiency and for the future, so everyone could have access instead of the boring same foods.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of ponderosa pine on our new property, so I'm hoping for some matsutake.
Nice.
If I can't find any, I might just buy some to try to spread those spores.
I know, man. That's, to me, that's the coolest part about wild mushrooms, right? It's, everyone says, oh, you're picking all the mushrooms out of the forest. What are you doing? That's so bad, And I'm like, do you understand how it works? And to me, it's one of the most sustainable ways of eating, of literally eating. I mean, is eating something that, as you take it out of the forest, as you walk around your property, it's literally dropping more seeds, spores, so that it can continue to grow. I mean, the more that you harvest, the more that it spreads. And to me, that's fascinating. And that's really what got me into mushrooms in the first place, was, if you take care of the forest as your garden, in a sense, and of your piece of property, or maybe it's a property that you're leasing, or maybe it's property that you go foraging in, and you take care of those mycelial networks, and you harvest properly, and you have the right, for us as a marketplace, we should have the right harvesting tactics and all that, which is what we're working on. And having the education out there to those people, it really is just invaluable as far as as a source of food. And I think that's what the coolest thing to me about mushrooms, cultivated or wild, is the regeneration process of them, harvesting it, of you harvesting it, and then just seeing it happen again and again. It's a very sustainable way of making food, versus where you got like the meat industry, where they're just like, it just, to me, it just doesn't seem like sustainable. It just doesn't seem, to me, it's not good for the environment. It's just, I do eat meat occasionally, right? But I try to like limit it in my diet. I solely eat mushrooms a lot just because of that very reason. It's just, it makes me feel better about the planet. It makes me feel better about what I'm eating because of the high nutrient content. To me, it's just a win, 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 win across the board of just awesome things that are happening with this industry as a whole. And with honestly just specialty foods, with wild nuts, with wild berries, with wild everything. There's just a way to cultivate uh, wild things in the forest, and there's also a way to cultivate them in controlled conditions like you. So there's just, to me, it's just fascinating. And I kind of went off on a little tangent there. I apologize, but it's just fascinating to me, just the innovations that are coming out and the sustainability around it all. And that's really what our core values are as a company, is just sustainability. Can we do this in the long haul and still have it be a sustainable and approachable market? And like you said, just making sure it's all under one roof, because that's easier to manage. It's easier to offer special discounts to shipping. It's easier to offer tools for these guys to really take their business to the next level. We want a place for people to congregate, talk about food, talk about changing the ways of our food, understanding, in more interesting aspects of how to create food, how to, create, just a better environment overall for healthier food, healthier alternatives. And yeah, it's just, I mean, I could talk all day long about this stuff. It's just, that's what the best thing about it is. It's fascinating to me. Like I wake up and I think about this stuff, and I'm sure you do too. And that's really what
Absolutely.
it's really what makes me, it gets my gears going, is just waking up and saying, how can we change the world? And, start small, right? Start small as a marketplace and really kind of just expand and really transform our food industry as a whole.
Yep.
Because right now it's unimpressive to me. It's just, it's all processed. It's not efficient. It's, you're having to import a lot of things. It's just, to me, it just doesn't make sense. So that's kind of one of the main reasons why me and Jack kind of started this thing, was just like, we're like, all right, what's going on with all this stuff? Why is the food industry like this? Is there a way we can change it? Is there a way we can make mushrooms? That's why we started with the mushrooms. Mushrooms are the greatest thing to start with, because you got the mushroom rib going on. That's just, I mean, who doesn't love mushrooms? But it's fascinating to me. It's mysterious. People don't really understand it. You have a large wiggle room for education. So there's, to me, that's the most valuable part of it all, is just starting somewhere where, you can have a good kind of foundation to build off of. And to me, mushrooms are the only way to build off of that foundation.
Yeah, I think moving forward, having more like standardized practices like what you described, and just having that thoughtful, save the environment first, moving forward, I feel like that aligns with my company and a lot of the companies that are, growing mushrooms. So I feel like there's, this synergy that's
Absolutely.
happening. I think that just the more education that everyone gets, and like standardizing best practices moving forward, that's going to be important as it develops. But yeah, I'm really excited to see, how this plays out, and I'm glad we finally got to talk. And
I know.
yeah, just finally got to make things happen. Hopefully I can get some mushrooms growing soon. I'm doing some breeding projects, so if I have some extra mushrooms, I'll throw them up there.
That
But
sounds good, man. That's awesome.
yeah. So my storefront is Fresh from the Farm Fungi on Foraged.market. And I look forward to putting more products out there and having another conversation in the future. So what's coming up next for you guys, or like what is on your plate? Or it's kind of like a down season, I guess, with the wild
Yeah.
foraged, but that doesn't mean you can't get dried mushrooms.
Oh, of course, of course. And so I think the main thing we want to focus on, as we call it, me and Jack and our team call it winter camp, right? It's kind of just like a settling down period where you kind of say, all right, let's turn things internal. What can we improve? What can we work on? What can we kind of project into the future? Number one thing, education. We want to provide more articles. We just came out with several articles. If you guys go on our blog, foraged.market /blog, including the fresh shipping article. We also have several other ones about, how to choose wild mushrooms, how to use dried wild mushrooms, or dried mushrooms in general. There's a lot of education that we're going to want to pump out there. In fact, a lot of our sellers are actually helping us out with those content right now. Supplying the content, allowing other people to kind of get interested in it as well. So education is definitely on our minds. Another thing too is just scale. We want to make sure that this thing can kind of scale as much as it possibly can without kind of slowing down at all. So we're thinking of ways internally here, more of like a community based, like can we build something like a social media platform to tie into Forage so that we can all communicate and talk to each other, kind of like Facebook. And as you and I know, Facebook is not really the best option for that. So we're really looking at alternatives for communication and honestly just overall interest in the platform itself. And education is on the top of our minds. So yeah, it's early, and I apologize. My dad's coming down the driveway right now, but perfect timing. But yeah, that's kind of where our head is at. Yeah, man, we're ready. We're ready to scale this thing.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much. I could post this up on YouTube soon. So it's
Perfect.
Andy Connor with Foraged.market. And if you have any questions, you could reach out through their website.
Mhm.
But all right, enjoy the rest of your evening. It was good to finally get to talk some mushrooms. And
Of course.
yeah, until next time, much love.
Thanks, Gary. Have a good day, buddy.
All right, you
Catch you
too.
later.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.